My jealous mom couldn't accept that I got pregnant before her favorite daughter, so in a desperate attempt to control the narrative, she brought my ex into the picture. But instead of playing her pawn, he exposed a web of secrets, unmasking her hypocrisy and revealing details that she'd tried so hard to hide. In front of everyone, the truth spilled out, and my mom was left to confront the consequences of her own actions and biases, a moment that turned her world upside down and made her regret everything. I call her Jackie. It's strange really, most kids call their mothers mom, but Jackie has always insisted that Leah, my half-sister, and I never use that word with her. I suppose, in her eyes, mom is a title for someone older. She's made it clear more than once that she feels too young to ever be called a mother, as if that label would somehow weigh her down. So, to us, she's simply Jackie, like a neighbor or friend rather than the typical image of a mom. Jackie was still in high school when she got pregnant with me, and neither she nor my biological father, Avery, had planned for it. In fact, she always calls it an accident, a word that has haunted me over the years, whether she realizes it or not. Jackie and my dad were high school sweethearts, but they were young, reckless, and not exactly thinking about consequences when they found themselves in this situation. When my dad learned about the pregnancy, he made it clear that he wasn't interested in being more than just a provider. He agreed to pay child support and to be there for me, but that was the end of his commitment. He wasn't going to build a life with her, and that crushed Jackie, even if she never admitted it openly. Part of her naive hope was that having a baby might deepen their connection, but my dad didn't see it that way, and that reality shattered her. After I was born, things between Jackie and my dad only got worse. Jackie couldn't let go of the resentment she harbored against him, and every visit he made became a trigger for conflict. When my dad would pick me up or stop by to see me, Jackie almost always ended up starting an argument. It seemed like she was always waiting for any excuse to fight, lashing out over trivial issues or even larger matters, mostly her anger that he never wanted to be with her. As a child, I didn't understand why she spoke so harshly about him, saying things like, "He doesn't love you enough to marry me," or "Fathers should take care of their families, and your dad's a deadbeat." I couldn't fully grasp what those words meant then, but as I grew up, I began to see things more clearly. I started to realize that my dad wasn't the villain Jackie painted him to be. On the contrary, he was dependable. He visited me every weekend without fail, always punctual and eager to spend time with me. He never missed a child support payment, and it was clear he genuinely loved being around me. Even though he and Jackie had a troubled relationship, I felt his care and effort in every moment we spent together. As I matured, I recognized that he did everything he could to be a good father, and despite his imperfections, he was far from the deadbeat Jackie had made him out to be. When I was 6, Jackie met Mike, the man she would eventually marry and now calls the love of her life. It was almost surreal to see how differently she acted with him. Mike, a kind, laid-back guy, accepted me into his life right away, treating me as if I were his own daughter, a gesture that meant the world to me, especially given the complex relationship I had with Jackie. Mike was never the issue. He was steady, caring, and always made an effort to be there for me in ways that Jackie often wasn't. Not long after their marriage, Jackie became pregnant again, and this time my half-sister Leah was born. From the moment Leah arrived, I was overjoyed. I loved her instantly, and over the years, we've grown incredibly close. She's my best friend, and I'd do anything for her. Yet, as much as I adore Leah, it's impossible to ignore the painfully uneven way Jackie treats us. From the start, it was clear that Leah was her favorite. Jackie showered Leah with love and attention in a way I never experienced. I would watch them together, Jackie lighting up around her, buying her pretty dresses with matching shoes, ensuring she had every toy or treat her heart desired. Leah was, and remains, the apple of Jackie's eye. Meanwhile, I always felt like an afterthought. Jackie was distant and often cold towards me. She rarely spent time with me, and when she did, there was a palpable tension, as if my presence was an inconvenience. Naturally, I felt jealous. How could I not be? I watched my sister receive the love and attention I so desperately craved from Jackie, and it hurt deeply. I did try to win her affection, but my simple requests, a new dress or a toy I liked, were usually ignored or dismissed. Sometimes she'd hand me old things from my cousin and insist I didn't need anything new, telling me to stop wasting money. That kind of favoritism stung deeply. It wasn't just about the material things, but the emotional distance, the way Jackie reserved all her warmth for Leah, leaving me feeling like a stranger in my own family. Every year when Leah's birthday rolled around, it was a grand celebration that underscored Jackie's obvious adoration for her. The parties were filled with decorations, gifts, and an excited crowd of family and friends. There were balloons, cakes, and an extravagant fuss made over Leah. It was the birthday every kid dreams of. In stark contrast, my birthdays were barely acknowledged. I was never allowed to invite friends over, and some years, my celebration amounted to nothing more than Jackie ordering a pizza. There was no cake, no decorations, no real excitement, just a quiet, overlooked day. The stark difference was a constant reminder that I wasn't as important to her, that I didn't deserve the same love or effort. Whenever I eventually confronted Jackie about this injustice, she never explained or tried to make things right. Instead, she'd snap, "Go cry about it to your dad," shifting the blame entirely onto him as if his actions were responsible for her neglect. My dad, however, always tried to make up for what I missed. He understood how special birthdays should be and made sure he was the first to call me at midnight, buying gifts and doing his best to make the day memorable, even if it couldn't compare to a big celebration. He was deeply upset by the obvious disparity in how Jackie treated Leah and me. I remember him once trying to speak with Jackie about it, seeking to understand why she couldn't treat us both with equal care. But those conversations always ended in yelling. Jackie would dismiss him, insisting that because Mike was Leah's father, it was natural for her to show her favor. That favoritism cut deep. It felt like I was being punished for something that wasn't my fault. When I left for college, it became even more apparent how little Jackie valued my presence. In fact, I sensed she was relieved to finally have me out of the house. She rarely called, and her visits became almost non-existent. The few times I heard from her, it felt more like a duty than genuine concern for how I was doing. Ironically, Mike, Leah, and even my dad put in more effort to stay connected than Jackie ever did. They visited more often, checking in on how I was settling into college and making sure I wasn't feeling isolated. It was comforting, but it also hurt to see my own mother's indifference. The lack of love and attention from Jackie stung deeply, yet I tried not to dwell on it. I kept hoping that maybe someday the issues between her and my dad would fade and we'd have a normal relationship. During my final year of college, I met Ian, my ex-boyfriend. We got serious quickly, and for a while, things were great. He was supportive and made me feel seen, something I rarely experienced from my own family, especially Jackie. When I graduated, it was a big milestone. My dad, stepdad, Leah, and even Jackie came to celebrate, though I knew Mike had to convince her to attend. I understood she wouldn't have shown up otherwise. Still, having them there on that important day meant something. That day, Jackie met Ian for the first time, and to my surprise, she seemed almost fascinated by him. At first, I didn't think much of it, but then she started making odd remarks about how she couldn't believe someone as handsome as Ian would be with me. The first time she said it, I tried to brush it off, used to Jackie's offhand remarks that hurt more than she probably realized, or maybe she did realize. I told myself it wasn't worth the energy to confront her, but then it happened again. We were having lunch after my graduation ceremony when, right in front of Ian and the rest of the family, she made another comment implying I wasn't attractive enough for him, joking that maybe I was his charity case. This time, it wasn't just hurtful, it was humiliating, especially since it was said in front of Ian. I could feel my embarrassment rising, and I wasn't going to let it slide. So, I turned to her as calmly as I could and told her that the way she was talking about me and my boyfriend was creepy and that I was more than just my looks. I wanted her to understand how inappropriate and uncomfortable her comments were, not just for me, but for everyone at the table. Ian looked embarrassed by her remarks, and even my dad, who usually avoided conflicts with Jackie, was clearly annoyed. He gave her a few warning glances, as if hoping she'd stop before things got worse. I could tell he didn't want a scene in front of Ian, but he was just as upset as I was. It wasn't just a thoughtless comment, it was another example of how she always managed to put me down. Later, after that graduation day, my mom and Ian became Facebook friends, which took me by surprise. Ian told me she had sent him a friend request, and he asked if it was okay to accept. Not wanting to make a big deal, I said it was up to him. He accepted, just to be polite, knowing that if he didn't, Jackie might bring it up later. It felt odd that my mom, who had barely shown interest in my life during college, suddenly wanted to stay connected with my boyfriend on social media. Over the 3 years Ian and I dated, my mom maintained a polite but distant relationship with him. She would occasionally comment on his posts or send him brief Facebook messages. Nothing overtly suspicious, but there was always a sense of familiarity between them. Jackie never gave me that kind of attention, but with Ian she seemed more engaged. Ian even pointed out a couple of times how he felt my mom was outright jealous of me. He noticed the little ways Jackie undermined me, dismissing my accomplishments, belittling me, or even showing a fixation on my relationships. At first, I resisted the idea. It was hard to believe my own mother could feel jealous. But the more Ian mentioned it, the more I started to see the pattern. Whether it was about my looks, my relationships, or my achievements, Jackie always found a way to make me feel small. And thinking that maybe she was jealous made everything click into place. Once I realized that, I became more cautious around Jackie. I guarded my emotions more closely and didn't let her comments get to me as easily. I wasn't sure what to do with the knowledge that my own mother might be envious, but it definitely changed the way I interacted with her. What once seemed like indifference now felt like a twisted competition, and that made me distance myself even further. Eventually, Ian and I broke up after 3 years. Our breakup was amicable. We both cared for each other, but our lives were heading in different directions. We promised to stay friends, but life got busy, and we lost touch, closing that chapter quietly. Then, 2 years ago, I met Phil, and everything changed. He was everything I'd ever wanted in a partner, kind, thoughtful, and he made me feel truly valued. With him, things felt right. We talked openly about our dreams and future, and for the first time, I saw a clear path toward the life I wanted, a life full of love, stability, and eventually a family. I'm genuinely happy with him, something I don't take for granted. This year, we found out I was pregnant. It wasn't planned right away, but it wasn't unwelcome either. Phil and I had always dreamed of starting a family, and while the timing was unexpected, we were overjoyed and began planning for this new chapter. The first thing we did was get married in a small, intimate ceremony with close friends and family. Leah was, of course, my bridesmaid, and having her by my side meant the world. Jackie attended, but throughout the ceremony, I sensed her disapproval, though I wasn't sure why. She looked frustrated, as if something about the event bothered her. Later, when we had a moment alone, she finally spoke up. She bluntly told me she never wanted me to marry someone like Phil. In her mind, I was making a mistake by being with him. Then she revealed that she had actually hoped I would reunite with my ex, Ian. I couldn't help but laugh. It was such an absurd suggestion, completely out of touch with my reality now. I thought maybe she'd had a bit too much to drink and was just spouting nonsense. The idea that she was still hung up on my ex when I had moved on and found happiness with Phil was almost laughable. I did my best to brush off her comments, as I'd learned to over time. Still, it hurt that on one of the happiest days of my life, my wedding, Jackie couldn't share in my joy. Instead, she found a way to criticize me, making it seem like I wasn't meeting her expectations. But this time, I had more to focus on, Phil by my side, a baby on the way, and a choice to concentrate on the love and happiness in my life rather than on Jackie's negativity. After Phil and I married, we agreed to wait until the reception was over to share the big news. I was pregnant. We felt it was best to tell everyone only after our wedding so that our decision couldn't be questioned. My dad, Leah, and Mike were overjoyed when we told them. Their genuine excitement made the moment even sweeter. Yet, as expected, Jackie, my mom, couldn't resist adding her own twist of negativity. As if I couldn't be happy without a bitter comment, she began questioning whether I was truly sure about having a child. She remarked that I might regret diving into motherhood without first enjoying married life with Phil for a few years. Her words surprised me, as if she were projecting her own regrets or unresolved issues onto me. I couldn't believe that, even at this joyful time, she couldn't support me without making me second-guess my choices. But this time, I wasn't going to let her remark slide. I was about to become a mother, and the thought of her trying to belittle my joy, or worse, affecting my child, forced me to stand up for myself in a way I never had before. I calmly reminded her that I wasn't her, and I would never regret having a child with the man I love. I made it clear that regardless of timing, I had no doubts about stepping into motherhood. For too long, she had undermined my decisions and made me feel small, but now I refused to let her toxicity infiltrate my family. That's when Jackie let her true feelings show. She said she couldn't believe that I, the daughter she'd always treated as second best, was the first to get pregnant and bring a grandchild into the family, confessing that she'd always expected Leah to take that honor. And as if that wasn't enough, she justified her negativity by claiming she wasn't ready to be a grandmother so soon, accusing me of ruining her reputation and social circle by having a baby right after my wedding. Her words hit me like a blow, not only insulting me outright, but also suggesting that my pregnancy and happiness were inconvenient for her image. It was a display of selfishness that shocked me. She wasn't worried about my future as a mother. She only cared about how she appeared to her friends. At that point, I had enough. I told her firmly that if she felt that way, she had no place in my child's life. I made it clear that if her reputation meant more than being a supportive mother and grandmother, then she was banned from my child's life, and I would go no contact with her. The conversation quickly escalated into a heated argument, with emotions running high on both sides, and I eventually asked her to leave. Since then, Jackie has bombarded me with messages trying to guilt me into apologizing for my outburst. She insists she was only being honest about her feelings, claiming that my pregnancy hormones made me overly sensitive, and argues that as my mother, she had every right to question my quick marriage and pregnancy, even as I considered cutting her out of my life. 1 week later, Leah and Mike confronted her for being insensitive and urged her to let the issue drop. It seems that for the first time, Jackie understood I was serious about cutting her out and realized I wouldn't tolerate her toxicity any longer, especially when it came to my child. Reluctantly, she apologized, promising not to be negative about my pregnancy or marriage again. Then, 3 days ago, something I never expected happened. Leah threw me a beautiful baby shower that was everything I had imagined. Jackie was there, but she seemed unusually tense, constantly glancing at the door as if expecting someone. When the doorbell rang, everything changed. Jackie practically jumped up to announce a surprise for everyone. I wasn't sure what to expect, maybe a small gift or an unexpected guest, but nothing could have prepared me for what came next. To my complete shock, it was Ian, my ex-boyfriend. He looked visibly uncomfortable, clearly out of place, as my mom dragged him into the room and showcased him like some bizarre spectacle. I was utterly confused. This was my baby shower, my special day, and here was my ex standing before me. I couldn't understand what was happening. Then my mom explained that she had been in touch with Ian for weeks and convinced him to come, insisting that he was here to give me a second chance. She looked at me and said she knew I was settling for less with Phil, assuring me that I didn't need to worry because Ian was there for me. My guests were horrified, exchanging shocked glances at what they heard. I kept looking between my mom and Ian, trying to understand the unfolding drama. Then, with embarrassment and apology in his eyes, Ian began to speak. He apologized for interrupting the baby shower, explaining that he never wanted to be there, a statement that only deepened my confusion. He continued, revealing that my mom had hounded him on Facebook, bombarding him with messages demanding that he proclaim his undying love for me. She was convinced that we were meant to be together, and that I was making a terrible mistake by having a baby with Phil. In her delusional state, my mom had convinced him that I was wasting my life by becoming a mother too soon, and that she wanted him to rescue me. The whole scenario was so absurd I could hardly believe it. Ian stressed that he never intended to rekindle anything between us, but felt compelled to be there and expose my mom's manipulative behavior. As he spoke, the tension in the room grew. Everyone stared at my mom, whose face turned bright red with embarrassment, clearly unprepared for his revelations. Then Ian turned to Jackie, firmly telling her to stop messaging him and move on with her life, insisting she had no right to ruin my baby shower. For the first time, I saw my mom without a snappy comeback. She was at a loss for words. Ian continued, saying he had always sensed my mom's jealousy and was deeply disappointed that she hadn't changed over the years. Jackie stood there, speechless, as the weight of her actions sank in for everyone. After Ian finished, he turned back to me and apologized once more, saying he was sorry for the disruption, but felt it was necessary to reveal the truth about my mom's behavior so I could see her true colors. Before leaving, he handed me a small gift for my baby, a genuinely sweet gesture. Despite the awkwardness, I thanked him for coming and for having the courage to expose what was happening. Without his honesty, I might never have believed that my mom could be so malicious, plotting behind my back to sabotage the most important moments of my life. That day confirmed everything I had long suspected. My mom wasn't just critical or difficult, she was actively working against me, driven by her own insecurities and jealousy. Since then, my dad and I have had no contact with Jackie. The rest of the family, who witnessed the baby shower, have spread the word, and no one wants any part of her anymore. My dad even warned her to stay as far away from me as possible. I still can't believe the lengths my mother will go to try and sabotage my life. 8 months later, for everyone asking, our baby was born healthy and is thriving. Phil and I are doing great, and Leah, my dad, and Mike have visited us several times. We all still meet up regularly. None of us are in touch with Jackie, and Mike is now separated from her. After confronting her about everything, she refused to apologize, instead trying to justify her behavior. In the end, Mike realized that if she could treat her own daughter so terribly, there was no guarantee she wouldn't do the same to him or anyone else she claimed to care about. Her selfishness has no limits, and he finally understood that he was better off without her in his life. In the months that followed our baby's arrival, our home transformed into a haven of quiet miracles and newfound hope. Every sunrise brought with it gentle reminders of our strength and resilience. Phil and I navigated the challenges of parenthood with cautious optimism, learning that every sleepless night and every tender moment wove together a tapestry of unconditional love. Amid the soft murmur of lullabies and the delicate scent of baby powder, I began to understand that true happiness lies in embracing life's imperfect beauty. With each passing day, the shadows of past hurt faded as our small family blossomed into a sanctuary of joy. During this period of healing, I found solace in the unexpected support of distant relatives and close friends who had once quietly observed my struggles. Their words, filled with empathy and encouragement, helped reinforce my belief that I was finally charting a course toward a life defined by self-respect and genuine affection. I spent long afternoons reflecting on my journey, how each hardship had inadvertently prepared me for this very moment of contentment and peace. I learned that while scars remain as memories, they do not have to dictate the future, and that love has the power to mend even the deepest wounds. Yet, despite the warmth surrounding my new beginning, echoes of past betrayal still lingered. Occasional reminders of Jackie's toxic influence would surface, stirring an unexpected mix of anger and sorrow. I recalled the hurtful confrontation at the baby shower and the painful betrayal by a mother I once trusted unconditionally. But with every recollection, I grew more resolute to safeguard the serenity I had fought so hard to secure. I vowed that no negativity would ever again seep into the haven I had built with Phil and our child, and that my worth was not defined by the disapproval of others. Phil's unwavering support became my anchor through turbulent times. His gentle reassurances and steadfast love reminded me daily that I was not alone in this journey. Together, we celebrated small victories, a quiet smile from our baby, a loving glance over a shared meal, and the simple joy of holding each other close when the world outside felt overwhelming. Our relationship, built on mutual respect and a commitment to our dreams, grew stronger with every challenge we overcame. It was in these moments of intimate understanding that I truly recognized the power of choosing love over fear. As the seasons changed, so did our lives. The painful chapters of our past receded into distant memory, replaced by a future bright with promise. Our family gatherings became sanctuaries of laughter and genuine connection, where the burdens of former grievances dissolved in the warmth of shared stories and heartfelt celebrations. I reached a place where the wounds inflicted by those who once tried to diminish my light were finally healing, replaced by a steadfast belief in the beauty of forging one's own destiny. The journey had not been easy, but every step reaffirmed my right to happiness, to love, and to build a life on my own terms. In time, even the bitter taste of betrayal softened into a lesson, a reminder that the opinions of others could never eclipse the truth of my own experience. The tumult of past conflicts gradually became the foundation of my resilience. I embraced forgiveness not as a concession to the past, but as a liberating act for my own future. With Jackie and her negativity firmly relegated to a chapter best left closed, I looked forward with a heart unburdened and a spirit reinvigorated. My child's laughter echoed through our home, a constant melody of hope and renewal, affirming that every challenge had paved the way for a brighter, more authentic life. Now, as I sit reflecting on the winding road that led me here, I am filled with gratitude for the lessons learned and the love that sustained me. I realize that my story is not defined by the hurtful actions of others, but by the strength it took to rise above them. Phil and I continue to nurture our dreams, building a future where our child grows up surrounded by unwavering love and integrity. The journey was long and fraught with unexpected trials, yet each obstacle only solidified my commitment to living a life of purpose and joy. In the end, I emerged not as a victim of past transgressions, but as a proud mother and partner who dares to dream boldly. My story, though marred by moments of despair, ultimately stands as a testament to the power of love, resilience, and the relentless pursuit of happiness. With each heartbeat, I choose to honor my own worth, leaving behind the echoes of old wounds and embracing a future filled with promise, hope, and endless possibility.